Some names pass like footsteps in dust. Others linger like embers, glowing long after the fire is gone. But a few names behave like spells, echoing through centuries with a force that feels older than history itself. Solomon is one of those names. Not spoken, invoked, not remembered, summoned. You can search for him in scripture, in temple columns, in the genealogies of ancient kings. You can follow the paths archaeologists swear are his. You can track the faint outlines of a kingdom scholars argue over in endless debates. But if you do that, you will miss him entirely, because Solomon does not live where history lives. He moves in the narrow space between record and revelation, between documented truth and whispered possibility. He exists in the twilight where myth hardens into code and faith becomes an instrument of power. This Solomon, the one who endures, is not the polished king of children's lessons. He is not confined to Sunday readings or gentle stories of wisdom and judgment. No, the Solomon we are entering is woven through the shadows of old yeshivas, where rabbis speak his name quietly, aware that some stories were never meant for loud rooms. He is present in the writings of Sufi masters, who see him as a sovereign over the unseen, a man who interacted with beings made of subtle fire. He appears in Arabic manuscripts as a ruler who commanded winds, interpreted omens, and sealed entities inside vessels of bronze. He moves through Hermetic grimoires and medieval alchemy manuscripts like a ghost in the margins, a king who understood geometry not as math, but as invocation, who wielded language not as speech, but as a tool capable of reshaping the fabric of the world. This Solomon is not a character. He is a threshold, a being who operated at the border between heaven and earth, order and chaos, visible and invisible. He is the king who built a structure that was not merely a temple, but a cosmological machine. He is the man who held the unspoken name of the divine, the man whose ring was not jewelry, but a boundary, a perimeter drawn between dimensions. In this video, we will not discuss the Solomon sanitized by religious memory. We will seek the one hidden beneath the surface, the mystic, the architect, the operator of forces that modern language can barely describe. We will read between the lines of history. We will follow the symbols. We will open the doors that doctrine kept closed. Prepare yourself. Ahead lies the Solomon whose story is not written on paper, but carved into the silence between worlds. They say the universe was written long before it was built, not carved into stone or inked on a papyrus, but inscribed in patterns, hidden geometries, vibrating letters, architectures of meaning that predate humanity itself. And when Solomon raised his temple, he wasn't erecting walls. He was translating those invisible patterns into matter. This is not engineering. This is invocation to Teo the casual eye. Solomon's temple was a monument, a marvel of cedar, gold, and precise craftsmanship. But to those trained in the esoteric traditions, those who read symbols instead of blueprints, the temple is something far stranger. It is the world translated. Kabbalists teach that everything in existence is born from the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Not metaphorically, literally. Each letter is an energetic signature, a number, a vibration, a geometry, a force. These letters are the atoms of creation, the hidden physics beneath the visible world. When Solomon began the temple, he didn't simply measure distances. He inscribed intention into space. He shaped emptiness with symbols, aligning the structure not with architecture, but with the fundamental grammar of the cosmos. The Sefer Yetzirah, the ancient book of formation, whispers this idea. Through letters, the universe was fastened at its corners. Through combinations of sound and silence, reality cohered into form. Thus the temple becomes more than a sanctuary. It is a device, a mirror of the macrocosm, a ritual instrument calibrated to channel forces that predate kings and prophets. Those who stepped into it were not entering a building. They were entering a coded environment. Every chamber a concept, every vessel a formula, every veil a boundary between dimensions. This was architecture as operation, design as invocation, geometry as spell work. At the core of the structure set the Holy of Holies, a chamber so precise in measurement that it defies coincidence. 20 cubits by 20 cubits by 20 cubits, a perfect cube. To modern minds, this is a detail. To initiates, it is a proclamation. The cube is stability incarnate. It is earth rendered in its purest symbolic form, the platform upon which the divine descends. It is a three-dimensional evolution of the square, representing balance, order, and manifestation. Hermetic traditions say the cube is the stone of the adept, matter mastered, chaos shaped, inner turbulence refined into permanence. To step into the Holy of Holies was not simply to approach the divine. It was to enter an archetype, to walk within a symbol so ancient that its meaning predates scripture. The space itself became a teacher, a silent text made of proportion and resonance. Scholars like Gershom Scholem have argued that the temple mirrors the tree of life. Each courtyard, each lampstand, each threshold corresponding to a sapphira, a stage of emanation in the descent of divine energy. Thus the pilgrim moving through the temple was not merely walking. He was ascending and descending the metaphysical blueprint that underlies existence itself. This was not worship. It was initiation. A structure like this could not have been raised by ordinary hands. And indeed, scripture introduces a mysterious artisan, Hiram of Tyre. To historians, he is a craftsman. To mystics, he is a keeper of secrets, an initiate of the cults of metal and flame, a man who knew how to coax meaning from molten bronze. His role in the story is more than technical. It marks the union of traditions. Hiram symbolizes the merging of pagan craftsmanship with Hebrew revelation, the fusion of Mediterranean mystery schools with the monotheistic vision of Israel. In the symbolic language of esotericism, Hiram becomes the axis where two rivers of wisdom converge. He is the figure through whom ancient metallurgy, with its allegories of death, rebirth, and transformation, enters the temple's narrative. For to work with fire is to work with creation, and Solomon needed more than labor. He needed someone who understood the alchemy of form. The temple, after all, is not simply built, it is forged. This is a question that has haunted mystics for centuries. Where did Solomon obtain the plans for a structure so charged with metaphysical meaning? The official narrative says God revealed them, but the hidden texts, the manuscripts that circulate on the edges of accepted canon, offer a more unsettling possibility. In the Testament of Solomon, a work preserved in fragmented Greek and Syriac manuscripts, the king does not learn the temple secrets from angels alone. He learns them from beings beneath the earth, not celestial messengers, but entities bound to the shadows. For the ring he receives, a ring inscribed with divine name, allows him to compel the hidden forces of the world, to question them, to extract their knowledge, and to set them not free, but to work. According to this tradition, every stone raised in the temple was touched not by human hands, but by unseen laborers bound by Solomon's command. This does not fit neatly into doctrinal comfort, but to the esoteric mind, it reveals a truth older than religion. There is no light without shadow, no structure without the chaos it shapes, no temple without the forces it contains. Solomon did not reject the darker aspect of existence. He integrated them, bound them, organized them, and wove them into the foundation of the sacred. This is why the temple is not only a mirror of the cosmos, it is a mirror of the soul, order built atop the tamed abyss. And that is why Freemasons, Hermeticists, and initiates of countless traditions return to Solomon's temple again and again, rebuilding it in symbol and ritual, stone by invisible stone. Because the real temple was never destroyed. It is reconstructed inside every seeker. Every time they confront the labyrinth within. Every magician in myth carries a tool, a staff, a wand, a book, a blade. But Solomon carried something far stranger, a ring that was said to bind what others dared not name. It was not treasure, it was jurisdiction, a seal between worlds, a boundary wrapped around a finger. But before the ring, before the spirits, before the legends of commanding unseen forces, there was something older, something infinitely more dangerous that I in the ancient world. Names were not identifiers. They were anatomies of essence. To know the true name of something was to own the blueprint of its existence. Egyptians used secret names to command gods. Vedic sages shaped fire with mantra. Babylonian priests whispered syllables that aligned their rituals with the motions of the heavens. But in the Hebrew tradition, names reached another magnitude. The ultimate name, the one hidden behind veils, the one never spoken aloud, was not a title for the divine. It was a divine compressed into vibration. Solomon, according to the mystics, knew not just a fragment of it, not merely the surface tones, but the entire lattice of power, the Shem HaMephorash, the 72-fold name. This name was not a single word. It was a matrix, a spiraling configuration woven from 3 lines of the book of Exodus, each line precisely 72 letters. When these lines were placed one above the other, and the letters interlaced in a particular sequence, they formed 72 radiant combinations, a staircase of power, a cosmic keyboard, 72 frequencies capable of influencing the architecture of creation. Knowing them was not scholarship, it was sovereignty. And according to the legends of the esoteric schools, Solomon had them engraved, tiny, perfect, absolute, into the metal of a ring. The ring is the most mythologized artifact in all Solomonic lore. It appears in Talmudic hints, Arabic manuscripts, Greek fragments, Syriac retellings, and medieval grimoires. But across every tradition, Jewish, Christian, Islamic, Hermetic, one theme remains consistent. The ring marks the border between the seen and the unseen. It was said to bear a sign, sometimes described as a shield of David, sometimes as a pinnacle, sometimes as a 72-fold name itself, reduced into a symbol so dense that it could open or seal reality. The ring did not emit power. It focused power. It turned intention into command, command into law, law into compliance. Through the ring, Solomon did not destroy forces. He compelled them. He conducted them like an orchestra, precisely, deliberately, each spirit a note in a larger cosmic structure. This was not sorcery. It was jurisdiction, a legal document inscribed in metal, a contract written in the language the universe cannot ignore. The Testament of Solomon, the oldest surviving magical text attached to his name, describes something astonishing. Solomon's power over spirits began not with violence, but with conversation, the first entity he encounters. A shadow that drains the vitality of young men, does not flee, and is not smitten by divine wrath. Instead, Solomon questions it. He asks its name, its function, its origin, its allegiance, its star, its vulnerabilities, its role in the hidden machinery of the world. This is a secret of Solomonic magic. Solomon does not banish forces. He understands them. He maps them. He categorizes them. He integrates them into a larger system. To him, spirits are not monsters. They are phenomena. They are distortions, impulses, principles, or patterns. The raw intelligence behind human emotions, natural events, astral movements, psychological disruptions, and the invisible architecture of fate. To know their names is to grasp their mechanics. To hold the ring is to assert authority over those mechanics. Thus Solomon becomes not an exorcist, but a researcher, a scientist of the unseen. Over time, Solomon subdues 72 distinct entities, each described with symbols that resemble myth at first glance, yet reveal profound metaphysical insights when examined closely. Some appear as beasts with layered faces. Some ride upon serpents of fire. Some take human form but speak with impossible voices. Some teach sciences, mathematics, astronomy, plant lore, metalcraft. Others manipulate illusions or influence emotions. These beings were later recast as demons, a word burdened by medieval fear. But in older texts, their nature is more neutral. They are intelligences, currents, forces of the inner and outer cosmos. In later European grimoires, these entities appear as the 72 spirits of the Ars Goetia, but originally they were mirrors, each one an inverted reflection of one of the 72 names of God, a divine name radiant with ascent, a spirit shadowed with descent. Together they form a binary system, a complete map of potentiality. Solomon's genius was not dominance, it was equilibrium. He placed every force, light or shadow, in its correct position within the architecture of his inner temple. The 72 spirits were not infernal prisoners. They were components of a cosmic equation, i.e. the esoteric traditions. The ring is not a physical artifact. It is an emblem of will, a mind that has aligned itself so perfectly with divine structure that no internal impulse can revolt and no external force can deceive. The ring symbolizes mastery of language, mastery of intention, mastery of the shadow self, mastery of inner fragmentation, mastery of the unconscious currents that destabilize ordinary people. The 72 spirits, therefore, are not only beings out in the ether, they are the 72 divisions of the human psyche. Every fear, desire, addiction, obsession, instinct, anxiety, and impulse that rules the uninitiated becomes a servant of the initiated. Solomon does not destroy the shadow. He delegates it. He does not purify himself by banishing darkness. He purifies himself by organizing it. And this is a lesson that echoes across Sufi texts, Hermetic treatises, Kabbalistic commentaries, and grimoires. The one who commands himself commands the world. The ring, the name, the spirits, these are metaphors for a structure of consciousness so complete that even the abyss becomes a collaborator. Wisdom is not gentle. It is not quiet, soft, or comforting. True wisdom is a fracture, a break in illusion that shields most people from the raw structure of existence. Those who touch it feel both elevated and endangered. They see too much. They hear what others ignore. They understand the machinery behind human behavior, behind fate, behind reality itself. And Solomon walked straight into that machinery and did not come out unchanged. The world remembers Solomon as the wise king. But the wisdom he asked for, the wisdom granted to him, was not strategy, nor clever judgment, nor political subtlety. He asked for the capacity to perceive truth at its root. In Hebrew texts, the word used is chakma, a term that does not describe facts or logic, but a spark of the original creative mind. It is the seconds of fire on the tree of life, the flash of divine insight before form, the raw, unfiltered intelligence that precedes language. To receive such wisdom is not to become knowledgeable. It is to become transparent to reality. But transparency has a cost. To see the world clearly is to also see its emptiness, its repetition, its impermanence. To discern the truth of things is to watch illusions collapse one by one, until what remains is unbearably simple and unbearably vast. Solomon's crown, therefore, was not a symbol of glory. It was a weight, a gravitational pull toward truths that most would run from. The apocryphal texts, such as the Wisdom of Solomon, written by Hellenized Jewish mystics, paint wisdom not as an idea, but as a being. She is described as radiant, as older than the cosmos, as seated beside the divine throne, as the animating essence of creation. Solomon writes of her as though she were a lover, someone pursued, someone revered, someone whose presence reshapes the soul. In mystical traditions, this personification of wisdom is not poetic metaphor. It is ontological truth. Wisdom is a visitation, a descent of clarity so profound that it disassembles everything familiar. To love wisdom is to surrender identity. To surrender identity is to face dissolution. And Solomon walked willingly into this fire. But like every divine encounter, contact with such a force demands more than admiration. It demands sacrifice. Ecclesiastes, a tribute to Solomon's later years, does not read like the voice of a triumphant ruler. It reads like the voice of a man who has stared too long into the mechanism of the world and found its gears hollow. Everything is vapor, he writes, not vanity as it is popularly translated, but vapor, mist, breath that cannot be held. This is not despair. It is diagnosis. Solomon is describing the psychological side effect of perceiving reality without its disguises. Those who understand cycles cannot be fooled by achievement. Those who see impermanence cannot be impressed by wealth. Those who perceive the cosmic recursion of all things find that joy and sorrow collapse into the same realization. Everything returns to nothing. Everything dissolves. And yet, life continues. This is the paradox that tormented Solomon. The more he knew, the more grief he carried. And yet the more grief he carried, the deeper his understanding became. Wisdom elevated him and emptied him. At the same time, Solomon mastered languages of angels. He interrogated spirits. He understood dreams. He spoke with birds, a mystical image that Sufis interpret as the soul's liberation from the body. He comprehended star lore, geometric pattern, symbolic architecture, psychological forces. He knew how to bind the chaotic impulses of the world and shape them into service. And yet, he could not master his own heart. His relationships, described in scripture as numbering in the thousands, are not the indulgences of a tyrant, but the symptoms of a seeker overwhelmed. Each woman, in esoteric interpretation, represents an archetype of the anima, the feminine principle that balances the masculine intellect. Solomon was not chasing pleasure. He was chasing completion. He sought understanding of the primordial feminine, the mystery that precedes all form. But some mysteries are not meant to be possessed. They are meant to be witnessed. In trying to embrace every aspect of the feminine, Solomon dissolved the boundaries of his own psyche. In mystical commentary, this is a falling point, the moment when the seeker drinks too deeply from the well of revelation and becomes intoxicated by it. It is not sin, it is imbalance, an overexposure to the light. Esoteric traditions, from Kabbalah to Sufism to Hermeticism, agree on one point: wisdom is a razor. Crossing into higher perception means standing at the border between revelation and delirium. A mind illuminated is also a mind endangered. To perceive the invisible architecture of creation is to flirt with the dissolution of the self. Solomon embodies this paradox perfectly. He is the sage who reached the apex of comprehension, and the seeker who nearly collapsed beneath it. He is the master of words, who simultaneously heard the silence behind all language. He is the architect of the inner temple, who wandered through its rooms until he no longer knew where he stood. Even Islamic stories echo this theme. They describe a moment when Solomon loses his throne, not by defeat, but by fragmentation. A jinn assumes his form until his ego is restored. A myth, yes, but also a metaphor. He who commands the forces of the world must first command the forces within himself. Wisdom, therefore, is not a trophy. It is a burden, a fire that warms and burns in the same breath. In the end, Solomon's greatest lesson is this: to see reality clearly is to stand naked before the void and still choose meaning, still choose creation, still choose love. Solomon died thousands of years ago, yet somehow he refuses to stay buried. Kings rise and vanish. Empires flourish and crumble. Wisdom traditions bloom and decay. But Solomon continues drifting forward through history, like a symbol that will not release its grip on the human imagination. Maybe because Solomon was never just a king. He was a pattern, a template for the seeker, a cipher for the initiate, a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical. He was not remembered. He was reactivated again and again by every generation that touched the hidden world and Western esoteric orders, especially Freemasonry. Solomon is not invoked as a biblical figure. He appears as the master architect, the sovereign who raised a structure aligned with cosmic order. Freemasons do not construct temples from stone. They rebuild the inner temple, the psychological and spiritual edifice that mirrors Solomon's original design. Each degree they advance is another passage in an invisible chamber, another step through symbolic architecture, in which light is not illumination, but understanding. Solomon becomes eternal builder, the one who understood the scaffolding of the universe and replicated it in both the world and the self. Even the story of Hiram, the craftsman brought from Tyre, becomes a ritual drama in Masonic tradition, a parable about transformation through death. and the forging of the perfected human. In this tradition, Solomon is not a memory. He is a living ritual. During the Middle Ages and Renaissance, a new Solomon emerged, not the king of Israel, but the sorcerer king of Europe, in cramped monasteries, in dimly lit studies, in the laboratories of alchemists, surrounded by copper alembics and burning lamps. Books quietly circulated under the name Clavicula Salomonis, the Keys of Solomon. These manuscripts, copied in secret, hidden from inquisitors, revised by wandering magi, presented Solomon as a codifier of ceremonial magic. Here Solomon becomes the master of circles and pentacles, the authority on talismans, the interpreter of planetary times, the voice that commands angels, the judge who interrogates astral intelligences, the creator of seals and divine names. The instructions are precise: what metals to use on which days, which prayers align with which planets, how to draw the circle that separates the magician from the turbulence of the unseen. Modern readers see superstition. Hermetic practitioners see physics, a metaphysical technology encoded in symbol and ritual. And behind every instruction stands Solomon, the one who discovered how language and intention could shape reality itself. The Lemegeton, or the Lesser Key of Solomon, expands the legend further, cataloging the 72 spirits. Solomon supposedly constrained in bronze vessels, but to the occult initiate, these spirits are not arbitrary phantoms. They correspond to specific psychological and cosmic forces. The inverted faces of the 72 divine emanations derive from the sacred name. In practical magic, this duality becomes a crucible: the light and the shadow, the ascent and the descent, the cosmic architecture and its distorted reflection. Solomon stands at the fulcrum, the one who sees both sides, without being consumed by either. To summon a spirit in these traditions is not to call a monster, but to bring into consciousness a part of the self, or a force of the world, previously operating in the dark. The grimoires are not manuals of domination. They are manuals of integration. And Solomon is cast as the pioneer of this inner alchemy that in Islam, Suleiman, is neither magician nor myth. He is a prophet, one entrusted with authority. Over winds, animals, and the jinn, the Quran describes spirits, constructing palaces, diving into the depths, performing tasks no human could perform. Yet, one of the most profound images comes at his death. Solomon stands leaning on his staff, appearing alive, commanding respect. Only when the staff is eaten through by insects does he collapse, revealing he had been dead for long periods. This story, to mystics, illustrates a single truth: apparent power is nothing compared to true knowledge. Even the unseen forces serve illusions until they crumble. In Sufi teachings, Solomon becomes a master of equilibrium, the one who holds dominion over the elements, because he holds dominion over himself. In Gnostic writings, Solomon becomes an embodiment of gnosis, knowledge that emancipates, but he is also the figure who warns of the danger of descending too deeply into revelation. And in certain Kabbalistic schools, especially Lurianic thought, Solomon is considered a carrier of Dyad, the hidden knowledge that bridges the opposites. On the tree of life, he is the master paradox, the one who holds light and shadow. In symmetrical tension, Solomon endures because he is more than a man. He is a symbol of the seeker's journey, of the rise into clarity and the descent into fragmentation, of the temple built in the world and the temple rebuilt within. Every tradition shapes him differently: the builder, the sage, the summoner, the prophet, the architect, the alchemist, the king of equilibrium, the man who both rose and fell. And in every portrayal, his story ends the same way, with a mystery unclosed. The temple he raised was destroyed, yet reconstructed endlessly in symbol. The ring he bore vanished, yet survives in ritual and allegory. The wisdom he carried fractured him, yet illuminates seekers to this day. Solomon is the prototype of the one who dares to cross the veil, who speaks with the invisible, studies the mechanics of creation, and accepts the cost of such vision. If this journey through the hidden side of his story has opened a door for you, step through it, share it with one who is ready, and remember the final paradox Solomon leaves us with. There's a time to speak and a time to be silent. Now, the threshold is yours.